Hello, I'm David Stuart Davies, editor of Sherlock magazine and author of several books involving Sherlock Holmes, including Starring Sherlock Holmes, which deals with the great detective's film career. I'm here to talk to you about this 1945 production, The Woman in Green. Rather a dull title, The Woman in Green, bland and innocuous, especially following on from such titles in the series as Spider-Woman, The Scarlet Claw and The Pearl of Death. One must assume that the lady in the title is the villainess Lydia Marlowe, she of the hypnotic features. But as the colour of her clothes is never referred to, and as you can see, this is a black and white film, the choice of title is rather baffling. The blurb on the posters emphasised the danger of this woman. Temptress of pleasure or mistress of murder, said one. Another stated, once in her arms, no man could refuse her love or his life. And another, from her lips, poison that bred murder. It is interesting to note that the original title was Invitation to Murder, much better. But this first version of the script ran into a fair bit of trouble. More of that later.
He'd talked to us plenty, we knew that. It didn't help any to know what was ahead of us.
Here we have Matthew Bolton as Inspector Gregson, a Doyle detective. It is Gregson's only appearance in the Universal series. Usually Scotland Yard was represented by Inspector Lestrade, played by Dennis Hoey, as a rumbustious idiot. It would seem that because of the grim nature of the murders in The Woman in Green, they needed a more sensible and more sober policeman to deal with them.
Gentlemen, the Commissioner.
Stuffy in here.
As the story opens, we learn that Scotland Yard is baffled by a series of murders. They are likened to the Jack the Ripper killings, the greatest crime wave since Jack the Ripper. This oblique reference brings to mind the Victorian period, the true milieu of Sherlock Holmes. In the original script by Bertram Milhauser, the murder victims had been very young girls of 8 or 9 years old. The Breen office, who acted as a censor agency for Hollywood movies at this time, deemed this to be a flagrant violation of the production code. They believed that the depiction of murders and mutilation of girls of such a young age was gratuitous, especially in wartime, and this would, quote, lower the moral sensibilities of the audience. They also threw in the criticism that such crimes might influence the weak-minded to imitate them.
These are the works of a fiend who kills first and mutilates afterwards. A ghoul who hacks off a part of his victim body and carries it away with him. A loathsome souvenir of his butchery. 3 women murdered so far.
The script presented to them on December 21st, 1944 was considered and was sent back for revision. There were other aspects of the screenplay that they did not approve of, but we'll come to them in due course. Milhauser revamped the script, raising the age of the victims from being young girls to young women. This was deemed acceptable by the Breen office. In fact, they sent Milhauser a letter congratulating him for, quote, the excellent manner in which the revisions were made.
He spoke to her and he walked along with her, just in case. He saw her go down the stairway to the basement lodging where she lived. We can only surmise what happened after that.
I feel that the solemn nature of the next 2 scenes prompted the writer to omit Nigel Bruce's Watson from them. Holmes is introduced into the case, but his biographer and assistant is missing. Nigel Bruce's comic mugging would have been out of place, I think.
If ever a man needed help, I did.
A typical Roy William Neill shot, a high overview of the room before closing in on the characters.
This makes 4, Inspector. 4 defenseless women here in the heart of London.
And everyone with the right forefinger hacked off.
Not hacked, Inspector Gregson. Cleanly, expertly severed. The work of a skilled surgeon.
The reference to a skilled surgeon is another echo of the Jack the Ripper murders. The sombre exchanges made by Gregson and Holmes seem influenced to some extent by the screenplay's original concept of having very young girls as the victims of this serial killer. The situation leads Holmes to be unusually emotional in this scene. It certainly would have been inappropriate for Dennis Hoey, as a bumptious Lestrade, to mouth the same words as Gregson does here.
Nor passion, thanks be, nor yet vengeance, because they all came of totally unrelated families. Steady, Inspector, steady.
Sorry, Mr. Holmes. I don't turn a hair when it's a bloke that can look after himself. A little slip of a thing like that.
Yes, it's horrible. Come on, let's get a drink.
So emotional is Holmes, he suggests they go for a drink. This is a stock shot taken from one of the many Universal movies. And certainly this does not seem quite the establishment Conan Doyle's Holmes would frequent. It's very plush and bourgeois. But it seems Rathbone's Holmes is a regular. He knows the name of the barman.
Good evening, Mr. Holmes. Good evening, Vincent. Whiskey and soda, please, and a double for my friend here, Inspector Gregson.
The Woman in Green began shooting on February the 5th, 1945, and was the 9th in the Universal series of modernised Holmes movies starring Rathbone and Bruce. In December 1944, the studio announced that it was upgrading the series, increasing the budgets to, quote, top proportions, and regarding each story as a quite separate and individual production. Sadly, it was all hype. The budgets remained the same as they did, and the status of the movies remained as supporting features, rather than the big picture.
Perhaps there's method in this madness. If we could just trace those missing fingers.
If we could just drain the English Channel, we might find a penny.
Oh, thank you. You may keep those, Mr. Holmes. Thank you.
Sir George Fenwick, isn't it?
Yes.
Is that his daughter with him? Don't be so naive, Inspector.
The "don't be so naive" Inspector line is very urbane and very un-Sherlockian. Here we have two veterans of the Holmes series. Paul Kavanagh as Sir George Fenwick. Kavanagh had played another titled fellow, Lord Penrose, in The Scarlet Claw, and he was Dr. Merivale in the previous movie, The House of Fear. His handsome, aristocratic looks gave Kavanagh a career of playing upper-class types, whether fall guys or cads. In this one, he is a fall guy.
Shall we go?
Yes.
What are you looking at, Mr. Holmes?
Looking at a very handsome woman. Not born to the purple, but giving an excellent imitation.
Would you like to come to my flat for a nightcap?
Lovely idea.
Yes, isn't it?
Here we have Hilary Brooke in her third Holmes movie. She first appeared briefly in the first entry in the series, Sherlock Holmes and the Voice of Terror, as Jill the driver, and then as the heroine Sari Musgrave in Sherlock Holmes Faces Death. The Woman in Green, however, provided her with her juiciest role. This is another performer who appeared in The House of Fear, Sally Shepherd. In that film, she played the wonderful dour housekeeper who uttered the memorable line, "You're wanted up at Drearcliff. It's murder!" Here again we see her in servant mode as Crandon, the creepy housekeeper to Lydia Marlowe, the Woman in Green herself. What a far cry this film is, with its relatively opulent sets from the first two entries in the series, The Voice of Terror and The Secret Weapon, the plots of which concerned World War II, and the enemy was the Nazis and their minions, including Professor Moriarty. As the series progressed, the references to war diminished, until, in this movie, there are none at all. This is partly because Universal realised that audiences preferred the detective investigating baffling mysteries and battling master criminals, rather than dealing with German spies and war crimes.
You wouldn't believe the things she can do.
Ah, charming place. Delightful.
Really? Do you think so? I'm so glad. Do sit down.
One American critic referred to this set as a swank apartment. It is interesting how, without music or without any particularly incriminating dialogue, director Roy William Neill is able to create a sense that something suspicious is going on here, something that is not quite right. Everything is done slowly, almost in slow motion, and cavernous performance easily reveal that he is the lamb being led to slaughter.
You're a treasure, Crandon. And lower the lights a little as you leave.
Irish-born Roy William Neill had long been a director of B-movies in Hollywood, but he reached his peak with this series. It clearly was a labour of love for him. He started out on the second movie of the series as director only, but by the third movie, Sherlock Holmes Faces Death, he had become producer also. He often contributed uncredited to the scripts, and with The Scarlet Claw was co-writer on the screenplay. After The Woman in Green, he was to make 3 more Holmes films, and then a final movie in 1946, Black Angel, starring Peter Lorre and Sidney Greenstreet, just before his death that same year. Hilary Brooke here gives the most convincing performance as a hypnotic femme fatale. The whole mood of this scene, so quiet and restrained, has been building up to the moment poor old George Fenwick is hypnotised.
Funny, hadn't thought of that for years.
Toy boats were my special joy. Anything I could set afloat anywhere. Like this. And this. Toy boats sailing into the Never Never Land.
Special effects are brought into play here, and they were created by the wizard of the screen, John P. Fulton. A studio employee, Fulton provided most of the weird effects in all the Universal movies, including the Invisible Man films. Perhaps his greatest achievement in the Holmes series was his creation of the monster in The Scarlet Claw.
You know, Holmes, I'm very sensitive to atmosphere.
No?
Yes, I can tell by the feel of this room there's been a murder committed here.
It may interest you to know, my dear fellow, it was the other side of that door at the foot of the
Here we
stairs.
encounter Bruce's Watson for the first time in this movie, and the opening interchange between Watson and Holmes firmly establishes the former's dim-wittedness. He is always wrong, and Holmes is always right. Again, the Jack the Ripper reference.
Watson, in the case of Jack the Ripper, there was one thing in common. His victims were all from one walk of life, living in the same section of the city. In this case, the murderer chooses his victims from all walks of life and from different sections of the city. No, my dear fellow, this is not the work of a homicidal maniac. It's something infinitely more sinister.
You mean the creeps? What on earth are you talking about?
Watson, I'm convinced that these murders are only incidental to some larger and more diabolical scheme.
That may be, but why the severed fingers?
The answer to that question, my dear fellow, is our only hope of solving these mysteries.
Dear sister, I am so happy.
Here we have a rare moment where Watson is both sensitive and sensible. The reference to the holiday in Brighton is a nice touch. It helps to underline that it is just ordinary lives that are being ruined, snuffed out by this cruel murderer.
And I'm not bitter realizing that she's shortly going to her death. Hello? Gregson?
Oh, there you are, Mr. Holmes. I've been looking for you everywhere.
What's happened?
Murder in Edgware Road, not half an hour ago.
Woman?
Yes, and the right forefinger cut off clean.
Though the cowl is real, of course, but the road sign and the brickwork are typically American. It's amazing how the studio got such little things wrong. Unless, of course, they didn't know or didn't care. The Woman in Green was released in June 1945. By then, the team were on with the next entry in the series, Pursuit to Algiers. This turned out to be the weakest of the whole 12 films. It is padded out with 3 musical numbers, including Watson singing Loch Lomond. The working title had been The Fugitive, and it was scripted by Edward T. Lowe, who had also worked on Sherlock Holmes and the Secret Weapon. One very interesting bit of casting in Pursuit to Algiers is that of Sanford the steward. It is a very small role, and it was played by Morton Lowry, who had played the villain Stapleton opposite Rathbone's Holmes in the 1939 version of The Hound of the Baskervilles.
Get your paper! Horrible murder, paper, all about the murder. Morning paper, all about the murder. Paper, horrible murder. Another young woman found murdered, paper, sir. Horrible murder, paper, paper, read all about it.
Cinematic decorum, or the Breen office, prevents us from seeing the severed finger, but we, the audience, are quite aware that Sir George has found it in his pocket. We can now see the link between the hypnotic Lydia and the finger murders.
Murder in Edgware Road. Horrible murder of a young woman. Read all about the murder.
Only fancy, Mum. There's been another of those horrible murders.
Dear, dear, how shocking.
Yes, Mum. I really don't feel quite safe here.
Lydia being very cool here, and Creepy Crandon's ironic observations are also quite chilling. They are discussing a murder in an objective manner, as though they had nothing to do with it, and do not have any knowledge of the crime. This seems to heighten the sense of their cold-bloodedness. Although in this movie there are elements taken from Conan Doyle's The Empty House, we shall come to those later, the plot regarding the finger murders, hypnotism, and blackmail are completely original, springing from the mind of the screenplay writer Bertram Milhauser. Sadly, this was his last script for the Universal Holmes, having worked on Sherlock Holmes in Washington, Sherlock Holmes Faces Death, Spider-Woman, and The Pearl of Death. He was very much part of the team that helped to shape these films, and the ones that he was involved in were among the best in the series. Milhauser had also been responsible for the screenplay of the 1932 Clive Brook movie, Sherlock Holmes. After The Women in Green, he said goodbye to the great detective, but carried on writing screenplays up to his death in 1958.
Just a little distressed. Detached. Not interested. I thought I'd said something to offend you.
I don't remember. I can't remember.
Tell me.
Hilary Brooke said that she really enjoyed playing her femme fatale role in this movie. As a matter of fact, she added, I enjoyed playing any part, but because I was tall and blonde, I worked with a great many comedians. Indeed she did, and in the early 50s, she ended up as a regular on the Abbott and Costello TV shows, where her character was far removed from the cunning Lydia Marlowe, the woman in green.
And in my pocket when I woke, I found... Yeah, in my pocket. That isn't...
The doorbell signals the entry of the brains behind this scam. The brains behind half that is evil and nearly all that is undetected in this great city, as Holmes observed in The Empty House. He was referring, of course, to Professor Moriarty, Professor James Moriarty, but the first name was not used in this movie. Moriarty is played here by Henry Daniell in a crisp, cold and somewhat camp manner. Daniell had already appeared in 2 previous Universal Home movies in subsidiary roles. He was one of the inner council disapproving of Holmes's methods in a red herring role in Sherlock Holmes and the Secret Weapon. He was also in Sherlock Holmes in Washington as a henchman of the main villain, another actor who had played Moriarty, George Zucco. Rathbone was very appreciative of Daniell's performance as Moriarty. He said in his autobiography, In and Out of Character, there are other Moriartys, but none so delectable as Henry Daniell. His co-star Hilary Brooke was less complimentary. She commented, these movies were great fun to do. The only complainer on the set was Henry Daniell, invariably getting upset when things were delayed. However, she did add that he was a great Moriarty.
Came out of your pocket. I saw it fall, but you never noticed. You were very busy, bending over something with a knife. Then you put something in your pocket.
Here we get our first sight of the Baker Street rooms in this movie. It was the set used in all the 12 features made by Universal. The actual details and dimensions are different from those described in the original stories, but the set decorators, Russell A. Gaussman and Ted von Hemert, managed to convey the authentic nature of the room, and tidy with papers and items littering the place, and of course, thanks to Rathbone's vigorous puffing, the smoky atmosphere.
I'm as much in the dark as ever.
This scene at the window, where Holmes and Watson observe a prospective lady client, echoes a similar scene in the Doyle story, A Case of Identity. Watson, true to the original conception of the character, is the one who notes that the girl is pretty. On the other hand, Holmes's deductions here reveal an uncharacteristically knowledgeable grasp of female fashion. Quite surprising that he is so au fait with such matters. But then again, Sherlock Holmes knows everything.
How do you know that?
She isn't wearing any gloves. A startling omission on a young lady of fashion.
No, she didn't put her coat on. Open car, too.
There's another nod to Doyle in Holmes's reference to The Empty House. It was in that Doyle story that one of Moriarty's men, Colonel Sebastian Moran, attempted to kill Sherlock Holmes by shooting him from the empty house opposite his Baker Street apartment. This basic idea, as we shall see, is used in this movie. This high view of Baker Street is very unconvincing, with the typical American brownstone buildings in the background and their stoops. There's nothing like this in the real Baker Street or its surroundings.
I wonder why he followed her here.
Oh, wouldn't you?
Right, Watson, give me the glasses.
Mary Gordon appears now as Mrs. Hudson. She had been in two 1939 films with Rathbone and Bruce and followed them to Universal, portraying a very Scottish version of Sherlock Holmes's landlady. She featured in 7 of the Universal movies, including, fittingly, the first and the last. She never did very much, but she did it with great grace. The actress here is Eve Amber, whom we must suppose was one of the Universal contract players with the ability to approximate a British accent and was available at the time of filming. She disappears after 2 scenes. I could find no record of any other movies she made. There probably were others, but she certainly never rose in the ranks. Rathbone is at his best when he is speaking low in a consolatory or interrogative fashion, putting the client at ease, while at the same time extracting evidence and information from them.
Oh, I don't know what to do. He's always been the nicest, dearest person.
Neill is kind to Eve Amber too, gracing her with quite a few close-ups. The close proximity of Watson, atypically serious and somberly sympathetic here, is also very effective. While each of these Sherlock Holmes movies have their moments, and even the weakest of them are brightened by the magical performance of Basil Rathbone as the great detective of Baker Street.
Steady, steady. Now take your time.
I couldn't sleep a wink last night. Then I started hearing things.
Hearing things? What sort of things?
I heard someone in the
Fans and commentators on the series have clearly noted a graph line reflecting the success and quality of each entry. Common perceptions are that the series reached its peak midway with the Scarlet Claw and the Pearl of Death, and then a decline set in. Well, there is truth in that view, and certainly Pursuit to Algiers, the next and 10th entry, is the weakest. But in particular, The Woman in Green and the later film Terror by Night have much to recommend them. Terror by Night followed the idea of Pursuit to Algiers by setting most of the action on a journey. While Pursuit used a boat, Terror used a train. Terror by Night is superior in every way to its predecessor. The tight screenplay was by Frank Gruber, a prolific writer of pulp fiction. He also adapted Eric Ambler's The Mask of Demetrius for the screen in 1944. And director Roy William Neill rose to the challenge of using the claustrophobic confines of a railway carriage to create a totally directed movie. It was tightly budgeted and borrowed extensively from the studio's stock shots of busy railway stations and speeding trains. In fact, locomotive experts have pointed out that Holmes seems to have been travelling on several trains, according to the shots that were used. In fact, these were edited into the film after it was completed by a former serial director, Saul A. Goodkind. The room that we are now in will be familiar to all those who have seen The House of Fear. It is the same set as the drawing room of Drearcliff House.
Yes. What do you make of it, Doctor?
Shot in the back, between the 2nd and 3rd ribs. The bullet undoubtedly penetrated the heart. Look at the powder marks on his coat.
I was afraid of this.
What do you mean?
Don't you remember the man in the cab who followed Miss Fenwick to Baker Street?
Well, you don't think he had anything to do with it, do you?
I think it's reasonable to assume that he...
Nice to see Holmes relying on Watson to inform him regarding the cause of death. This scene is very pleasing in that it captures the essence of the true Holmes. Holmes the observer who reasons from what he observes and reaches conclusions. Let's learn with him a while.
The mud from the garden he brought in on his boots. Sir George must have surprised the intruder. Crossed the room to him here. What follows we can't tell, but from the location of the wound, I'd say that he turned his back for a moment, and as he turned, the muzzle of the revolver was placed between his ribs and one muffled shot fired.
And you mean to say he kept on going, even after he was shot?
There's no doubt about it. Look there. The trail of blood leads us back to the desk. There's something Sir George was after. Something.
I know. He was trying to summon help, poor chap.
I don't think so, Watson. There's the bell pull by the fireplace. No, you'll notice from the trail of blood that Sir George made straight for this desk here. I wonder, there was something he was desperately anxious to get. Hello. His right hand's clenched.
That's perfectly natural. Death agony.
But the left hand lies open. Why only one hand clenched in the death agony? The right hand, the hand nearest the desk. Please note that. If Sir George took something off this desk, something so important that he spilled his last drop of blood to get it, I want to know what it is.
A match folder was also an essential element in the plot of Sherlock Holmes in Washington, and so there is a kind of crossover reference here, especially as the screenwriter Bertram Milhauser penned both movies.
Nothing but an ordinary match folder.
Where does that lead us?
I imagine to something very important, Gregson. This match folder's from Pembroke House.
Why shouldn't it be? He was there, you know. We saw him yesterday.
Yes, but the effort he made after he was shot to get hold of this match folder. It's just possible he wanted someone to remember Pembroke House. He may have wished to recall it to someone who saw him there. Someone who, like ourselves, saw him with a woman.
A bonus appearance of Mrs. Hudson. This next scene is one of the best in the whole series for showing a useful and sensible relationship between Holmes and Watson. And in this timeless setting, with Watson with his wing collar and Holmes wrapped in his traditional dressing gown, clutching his violin, well, we could be in London circa 1895 rather than Hollywood 1945. Up to now in this movie, Nigel Bruce has behaved in a reasonably sensible way. He is often criticised for making Watson a puffing, blustering idiot. Well, yes, he did so on occasion, and he certainly will do in this movie. But it is clear from this scene, and the previous ones in The Woman in Green, that Bruce was quite capable of providing us with a reasonably authentic Watson. What in fact he was doing was playing the part as written in the script. When required to behave in a sombre and sensible fashion, he could do that. And then, prompted to behave outrageously, he could do that too. Here, the interchange between Holmes and Watson is very Doylean and believable. Watson is saying the kind of things we might say, while Holmes, the genius, is refining the ideas into a theory that leads us towards Professor Moriarty.
Well, Sir George didn't commit these murders. What fiend did?
I rather think they're not the work of any one man.
Oh, come, Holmes. You don't expect me to believe there's a whole organization going about killing people and chopping off their fingers.
No, it's possible, quite possible.
Well, whoever's behind all this thing must be out of his mind.
On the contrary, my dear fellow, if my assumptions are correct, this little scheme has behind it the most brilliant and ruthless intellect the world has ever known.
You don't mean Professor Moriarty?
I do.
Oh, steady, Holmes, you've got him on the brain. This is the third time in as many months you've suspected him of unsolved crimes. He's dead, you know.
Is he?
Is he?
With the character of Moriarty, there was no real continuity in the Universal series. When he last appeared, in Sherlock Holmes and the Secret Weapon, he was played by Lionel Atwill. In this movie, he was working for the Nazis. In the finale, he attempts to escape through a secret passageway, but it has been booby-trapped by Holmes, and so, we are led to believe, he falls to his death. Moriarty, as played by George Zucco in the Fox movie The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, starring Rathbone, also fell to his death from the Tower of London. In The Woman in Green, as we shall see, Moriarty keeps up the tradition of toppling from a great height. Watson, it seems, can be coaxed out of medical retirement, but not very often if the dust on his medical bag is anything to go by. Now, we are witnessing the transition from the sensible Watson to the buffoon. The bluster and puffing silliness grows before our very eyes.
Just the sort of person who would hoist herself up on a stool to feed the canary. There ought to be a law against fat people keeping little dicky birds. Well, so long, old man. I shan't be very long. Haven't used that bag since I brought little Amelia what's her name in the world. She grew up to be a very unattractive child. Well, who wouldn't with a name like Amelia?
Still chuntering as he leaves.
stupid about extras.
In the Conan Doyle Sherlock Holmes canon, the detective and his arch-enemy, Professor Moriarty, meet only twice. The second time is on the edge of the Reichenbach Falls in Switzerland, where they fight and apparently topple over, locked in each other's grasp, into the swirling waters below. The first time they meet, the Professor visits Holmes in his Baker Street rooms, in the story The Final Problem, to warn him from interfering in his nefarious plans. That sequence is the basis for this scene, and indeed some of Doyle's dialogue is used here. A lovely shot of Rathbone's profile, which is so Sherlockian. Hollywood did not quite know what to do with Henry Daniell, or that's what he thought at least. He had a magnetic presence and flawless diction, but lacked the standard good looks of a leading man. He imbued all the parts he played with a frosty demeanour, which, if we accept Hilary Brooke's words, was part of his own natural personality. He never rose above the rank of support actor, but he had a very long career and appeared in many notable movies, such as The Seahawk, The Philadelphia Story, and Chaplin's The Great Dictator, all 1940, and The Body Snatcher, 1945, Billy Wilder's Witness for the Prosecution, 1957, and his last performance in My Fair Lady, 1964. He died at the age of 69, a few months before that movie was released.
Appeal to me more and more.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Won't you sit down?
Thank you.
And now, Professor Moriarty, what can I do for you?
Everything that I have to say to you has already crossed your mind.
This interchange about crossing minds is verbatim Conan Doyle from The Final Problem.
What do you think?
There's another Roy William Neill trick, presenting Moriarty at an angle, indicating his dangerous nature and his lack of fidelity to the norm. This is a brilliantly played scene and deserves not to be interrupted.
But I have you. I could turn you over to the police here and now.
You could. But if you did, you'd never see Dr. Watson again.
Oh, the telephone call.
Quite.
I rather assumed you had taken some such precaution. Or I should have snatched up a revolver and indulged in a fit of heroics when you came in.
Very smart, aren't you?
Not smart enough. Or I should have anticipated you. But if any harm comes to Dr. Watson, I shall seek you out. I shall not rest until I find you, and when I do...
No harm will come to Dr. Watson this time. But I can't answer for the future. Mr. Holmes, I should strongly advise you to drop this case.
Don't be silly.
Think it over. We've had many encounters in the past. You hope to place me on the gallows. I tell you I shall never stand upon the gallows. But if you are instrumental in any way in bringing about my destruction, you will not be alive to enjoy your satisfaction.
And we shall walk together through the gates of eternity, hand in hand.
What a charming picture that would make.
Yes, wouldn't it? You know, I really think it might be worth it.
The actor attempting to sell Watson some laces here, in reality a minion of Moriarty, is Harold de Becker, named in the cast list as the Shabby Man. He appeared very fleetingly in many of the Holmes movies. Perhaps his most memorable role was in Sherlock Holmes Faces Death, when he appeared as the pub landlord.
Help a poor bloke. What's only got one arm? Any luck with Mr. Holmes?
You can read his obituary in tomorrow's papers.
Oh, there you are, Watson. Come in. I was
The transition from serious Watson to comic Watson is now complete. Notice how petulant and blustery he's become. And as we shall see, Holmes's attitude and behaviour to Dr. Watson changes too. He almost seems to get pleasure from his friend's irritation, although we can see there is a genuine affection beneath the teasing smoothness. By now the playing of the characters came as second nature to the two actors, who were good friends off the set as well as on, and their real friendship enhanced the screen relationship. Whatever mood either is in, In the end, tolerance wins through, which, in essence, is the basis of every successful relationship.
You must be out of your mind. Why?
Well, he bluffed me into believing that he was holding a friend of mine as hostage.
Friend of yours who?
Oh, nobody very important, just a fat, lazy fellow. Medical man, I believe.
Medical man? Do I know him?
Yes, I think you do. A fellow by the name of Watson.
Watson, never heard. Who, me?
I'm afraid so.
Another authentic touch from the set dressing boys. We are told by Doyle in the story The Musgrave Ritual that Holmes keeps his tobacco in a Persian slipper on the mantelpiece of his rooms at 221B Baker Street. And here we see Rathbone's Holmes using it. The one item in the Baker Street rooms which is a new addition in this movie, for a reason, is the bust. It is a bust of Julius Caesar, which Holmes draws our attention to by striking a match on it. This, of course, becomes the target for the sniper, thinking it is Holmes's shadow on the blind, as in the Doyle story, The Empty House. Except in this tale, Holmes has a wax bust specially created for him by Monsieur Oscar Meunier of Grenoble. To increase the wax bust's realism, Holmes engages Mrs. Hudson to crawl on her hands and knees and keep changing the position of the bust every quarter of an hour. Wisely, the Universal people avoided that rather comic notion and saved Mary Gordon's dignity.
First floor front.
Huh? What's wrong with it?
It's open.
Why shouldn't it be open?
Well, it wasn't open half an hour ago. I'll stake my life on that.
Oh, it's not our business. Let it stay open.
I wondered if you'd go over, old fellow, and see what's the matter.
Oh, trespassing. Against the law.
Very well, I'll go myself.
Oh, well, if you're going to put it like that, ridiculous waste of time. Going about shutting windows at this hour of the night.
Yeah, you better take this torch.
Well, take what? Dignified job for a doctor. Dr. Watson, the torchbearer. And what do you propose to do? Sit in a comfortable chair, I suppose, and read a good book?
That's a very good idea.
Yes, very good idea. While I play night watchman, you have a nice read.
And so Bruce's petulance goes up a notch further here. We know, of course, that Sherlock Holmes is sending him off for a completely different reason from the one given. But Bruce's watchman can't tell that. While the ideas used in Milhouse's plot are clever and exciting, there are several holes in the logic. 4 murders have been committed before the trap is set for Sir George Fenwick, and yet he is the only one we see implicated in the crimes. Was he the only black male victim? Surely not. So what happened to the others? We're never told. Pause a moment to listen to a pleasing variation on the main title theme, originally composed by Frank Skinner. Another weakness in the plotting is Moriarty's use of a hypnotized sniper to shoot at Holmes, when he could quite easily have had one of his minions, perhaps the shabby man, do the job himself. It seems unnecessarily fussy and complicated. In the original Empty House, the would-be assassin is Colonel Sebastian Moran, Moriarty's right-hand man. A classic shot of Holmes's silhouette against the blind at 221B Baker Street, an image first created by Sidney Paget, who was the original illustrator for the Holmes stories when they first appeared in the Strand magazine. It is a pat on the back, therefore, to Universal to inject this moment of Doylean fidelity into their modern pastiche. And there's the image again.
Stop it! He killed Holmes! He killed Sherlock!
Watson.
You? But I saw him shoot you a second ago.
Not me, my dear fellow. Merely the bust of Julius Caesar. Incidentally, you may have noticed that all through the ages...
The prominent noses gag is good, and I think in essence that Holmes using Julius Caesar's bust rather than having one specially made for the job is more appropriate, more realistic, and greater fun. In answer to the rhetorical question I asked earlier concerning why Moriarty used a hypnotized sniper and not one of his own men, well, the answer is simple in practical plotting terms. Holmes has to be given a link that will connect George Fenwick, Lydia Marlowe, and hypnotism. Mr. Sniper is that link.
You've seen service in the Far East, haven't you?
The East?
I thought so. Look at his complexion, Watson. Yellow as saffron. He's been taking atabrine. Cure for malaria. Sniper, aren't you?
The Woman in Green had mixed reviews when it was released in June 1945. Of course, by now there was little interest in a new entry in the Sherlock Holmes series, a series that had been running 3 years. But a Holmes film always attracts some attention. While the Herald Tribune thought the film was one of the better Sherlock Holmes mystery thrillers, and that Rathbone's performance is always equal to the breadth of the script, which in this case allows him to approach very near to the character of the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle detective, the New York Times took a different view. A Hollywood scriptwriter called Bertram Milhauser takes full responsibility for what transpires on screen, and it's just as well, for Sir Arthur Conan Doyle never perpetrated such a disappointment. Well, the reviewer had obviously not read The Mazarin Stone.
It wasn't against his nature, that's the devilish part of it. They picked a man for their purpose whose job was sniping.
Who are they?
Professor Moriarty and his finger murderers. Williams spoke of a woman. I think you'll find that she asked him home tonight for a drink. Nice quiet rooms, soft lights, music.
You got it all pat, Mr. Holmes. What's the lady look like?
Up 30, nice figure, blonde, lustrous
That's
eyes.
a nice gag, underlining Watson's role as a ladies' man. But it does leave us to wonder what a chubby old fellow with billowing white eyebrows would do with a tall, shapely blonde, or she with him. In fact, Hilary Brooke was actually 30 when she made this movie. Rare for a Hollywood actress to give her real age. Tim Bryson, who played Corporal Williams, was another contract player at Universal, whose career faded as quickly as his role in this film does. The final film in the Universal Rathbone series was Dressed to Kill, also known as Sherlock Holmes and the Secret Code in Great Britain. Its working title was Prelude to Murder. The plot is more mundane and less gimmicky than the previous entries. However, there are elements cribbed or copied from previous films in the series. As in The Pearl of Death, Holmes and his adversaries are chasing a special item, a MacGuffin as Hitchcock would call it, and both parties are in a dead heat to obtain it. As in Sherlock Holmes and the Secret Weapon, there is a baffling code to crack. And as in The Scarlet Claw, the villain, this time a villainess, is adept at disguise. And, like the Spider-Woman, she is ruthless and heartless. The movie's villainess is played by Patricia Morrison, a newcomer to the series. But she had a long Hollywood career, making films until well into the 1970s. In 1947, she appeared in another detective movie, Song of the Thin Man. It was in essence Basil Rathbone who brought the Holmes series to a close. Universal had the rights to the character for another 3 years, although it is difficult to know how the studio could have carried on as long as that, churning out the Sherlock movies. Invention was flagging and budgets had been pared down. And more importantly, Universal's upcoming merger with International Pictures would see an end of the B-movies on the Universal lot. Nevertheless, when Rathbone announced his decision to go, he was in very bad odour with Universal, and also with his good friend Nigel Bruce, who was very happy to carry on. It was their only falling out in 7 years of working closer together. Happily, the rift was a brief one. However, one could hardly blame Rathbone for wanting out. By 1946, he'd been playing Holmes virtually non-stop, on film and on radio for 7 years. Typecast isn't the word. He was very upset when he lost out to George Sanders as the role of Lord Henry Wotton in The Picture of Dorian Gray, 1945. So he not only gave up the series, but for a while he gave up Hollywood and returned to New York and the stage in an attempt, as it turned out a futile one, to escape Sherlock Holmes.
Moriarty, anything is possible.
Williams!
dead. You see, anything is possible.
The unnerving character here, Dr. Simnel, is played by Percival Vivian, the real murderer. A creepy soul he is too. His penchant for dressing dollies seems a leftover from the original script, which, if you remember, involved victims who were young girls. Remarkably for a film of this age, there is an unpleasant air of paedophilia about the character. Certainly this fellow with instruments that are sharp enough to split a hair seems unnecessarily perverted, and he leaves a very nasty taste in the mouth.
To help you. Sharp enough to split a hair.
Put those tools away until they're needed.
But they're not tools, sir. They're instruments.
Put them away. Is Lydia in?
Yes. But really, you should let me.
Get dressed.
I ought to have a bleeper here to say corny line alert, corny line alert. The Mesmer Club, the meeting place of all top hypnotists in London. That's telling you. It's almost like a line from a radio play where it's necessary to explain such things in words. Not necessary in a film. This is lazy or clumsy scripting. Moriarty reaffirms the idea that women per se are no real attraction for our Sherlock. In Doyle's A Scandal in Bohemia, Watson observes that Holmes only spoke of the softer passions with a jibe and a sneer. The gorgeous Lydia Marlowe could only entice the great Sherlock Holmes, according to Moriarty, by arousing his curiosity.
How would you suggest
What
I get
else?
Mr. Holmes to accompany me here? Kidnap him?
Oh, no. Holmes has one weakness, his insatiable curiosity. If you can arouse that, you can lead him anywhere. It's up to you to take advantage of any opportunity that may arise.
So here we are at the Mesmer Club, and Watson announces it to confirm the location. He pooh-poos the idea of hypnotism, and as a practical medical man, he is quite within his rights. But one of Holmes's lines was cut from the original script by the Breen office, referring to hypnotism as a holy science. Strange they let a creepy fellow dress dollies and let folk find severed fingers in their coat pockets, but objected to hypnotism as a holy science. But that, I suppose, is the shifting nature of censorship. I believe that this reference to Sherlock Holmes's brother, Mycroft, is the only one in the whole series, but I may be wrong. However, it would have been great fun to include the character of Mycroft in one of the films. For me, the ideal casting of the period would have been Sidney Greenstreet. Remember, Mycroft was older and fatter than Sherlock. Dr. Onslow here is played by Frederick Warlock, who became a veteran of the Universal series. Usually playing a sharp-tongued individual, he had already appeared in Sherlock Holmes Faces Death, and following this movie, he was a foreign prime minister in Pursuit to Algiers, an irritable passenger in Terror by Night, and a nasty villain, Colonel Kavanagh, in the final movie of the series, Dressed to Kill.
Is inadvisable.
Inadvisable poppycock.
For the sake of latecomers, I may say that I have placed this subject under profound hypnosis. In this condition, he can feel no pain, even under applications which normally would be excruciating.
Excruciating?
You excuse me, please.
Warlock, born in 1886, had a long Hollywood career in many minor roles. He was making films up until the late 1960s. He even appeared in a Jack Lemmon comedy, The Notorious Landlady, in 1964. When Rathbone left the series, he thought he had said goodbye to Holmes, but that was not to be the case. On the 5th of April 1949, in an hour-long TV special featuring the American comedian Milton Berle in a Sherlock Holmes spoof, Basil appeared in a guest role as Rathbone of the Yard. Then, in 1953, he played Holmes again, twice, in two different ventures. First, in the CBS TV suspense series, he appeared in a 30-minute adaptation of The Adventure of the Black Baronet, a pastiche penned by John Dixon Carr and Conan Doyle's son, Adrian. Nigel Bruce was too ill to play Watson, and so Martin Green, a British light opera singer known for his roles in Gilbert and Sullivan, was brought in to play the good doctor. The programme garnered poor reviews. One stated that Mr. Rathbone did not seem happy with the part. Well, it was more likely that he was ill at ease doing live television. One remembers his live radio broadcasts were far less polished than his screen efforts. The same year, he played Holmes on stage, on Broadway, in an ill-fated project, a drama written by his socialite wife, Ouida. Moriarty in this production was Thomas Gomez, who had played the villain Meade in the first Universal film, Sherlock Holmes and the Secret Weapon. Sadly, the play closed after 3 performances. We are now about to witness one of the low points in the film career of Dr. John H. Watson, and indirectly Sherlock Holmes. For the detective not only allows his friend to make a complete fool of himself here, but seems amused by it too. One can never believe that the characters created by Conan Doyle would behave in such a manner. But this is comic padding for a Hollywood movie, and a moment to exercise Nigel Bruce's comic gifts.
It's wonderful, the attraction on the feeble-minded, of course. The continuous motion, if they just let themselves follow it. Of course, you could stare at it till doomsday, Dr. Watson, with no effect at all. Still, it might make you a little drowsy, like the white ribbon of road at night.
At this juncture, we should be thankful to the Breen office, the censorious establishment, for they insisted in changes to the first draft of the script at this point. The original version had Dr. Watson dropping his trousers while under the hypnotic influence on the instructions of Dr. Onslow, getting his own back, one supposes, for Watson's rudeness about his holy science. However, the Breen Code did not step in to save Watson's dignity altogether. In fact, they were only merely exercising the puritanical rules of the production code at the time. No man should drop his trousers for comic effect, or for any other effect, one supposes. The dropping of the trousers is reduced, therefore, to Watson taking his shoes and socks off. Perhaps this act has more decorum about it, but it is nonetheless degrading to the companion and biographer of the great detective Sherlock Holmes. The rolling up of the trouser leg is a Breen substitution for the dropping of them. Bruce, of course, loved playing Watson. In essence, he was playing himself in a slightly different gear.
It isn't deep. Better take your shoes and socks off. Roll up your trouser.
Many of the actors and actresses who worked with Willie Bruce, as he was called, spoke of him with affection. Interestingly, Edward Hardwicke, son of Sir Cedric Hardwicke, has vivid memories of meeting Bruce in Hollywood in the 40s when his father was filming there. Edward Hardwicke remembers Bruce as a lovely man, very good with children. We see Bruce being charming with youngsters in The Scarlet Claw and the young child who'd been locked in the cupboard in Dress to Kill. Edward Hardwicke, of course, went on to become another memorable Watson, a more authentic Watson to Jeremy Brett's Sherlock Holmes. After the film series finished, Bruce continued to play Watson on radio for one more season, with Tom Conway voicing Holmes. This time, Bruce got top billing. He died in 1953, the same year as Rathbone's ill-fated attempt to come back as Holmes on Broadway. At last, our two protagonists get together. Hilary Brooke's assured, sophisticated, and one has to say, alluring performance here is a great contrast to a rather uncertain portrayal as Sally Musgrave in Sherlock Holmes Faces Death, only 2 years earlier.
I feel I must protest, Dr. Onslow. I was told this was a gathering of serious students of a great science, and I find myself in a company of buffoons.
Oh, my dear madam.
Elliot's and Esdale Braid. Were those men martyrs for the truth? That you may laugh over your childish, cruel tricks?
I must say I'm in complete agreement with you, madam. This was a most unnecessary performance, Dr. Onslow.
Beg your pardon, sir.
There's a rarity. Sherlock Holmes with a chat-up line.
Thank you, Mr.
And so we're back at Pembroke House. Hilary Brooke has fond memories of this particular scene. She said, Basil was constantly fooling about on set. We had a scene in this picture where the two of us were in a cocktail lounge. For some reason, the sequence was taking a long time to shoot. So, to break the monotony, we pretended we were getting drunk, slurring our speech and the like, with the scene ending by both of us sliding under the table and passing out.
Thank you.
I didn't know there was such a pleasant place in London. It was so nice of you to suggest our coming here.
I thought a little pick-me-up would do us good.
Fooling around or not, the playing here is very smooth. It reminds me a little of the railway carriage scene in Hitchcock's North by Northwest, with Cary Grant and Eve Marie Saint. The two protagonists circling each other in dialogue, with the odd compliment thrown in, while neither trusts the other. Roy William Neill enhances this lack of honesty, the sense of double-dealing, by presenting shots at an odd, dreamlike angle. Certainly, there is a thrilling sexual subtext to the scene which is unique to the series, and unique to Sherlock Holmes. And may I add, it is very convincing. One is reminded of the slogan on the poster, Temptress of Pleasure, or Mistress of Murder.
You were sitting, I believe you were sitting at this very table. Cigarette?
Thanks. Do go on.
There was a charming lady with him. He was lighting a cigarette.
Charming. Did you see her face?
No worse luck. Merely her back.
We have to wonder here which lamb is being led to the slaughter.
Wasn't it? Afraid I'm getting a little older.
I shouldn't say so.
That's nice of you. Still, the first time in my life, I've got hold of a case that's beyond me. I'm actually losing sleep over it.
You know, Mr. Holmes, I believe I could help you.
Really? I should be very grateful.
You're amused.
Oh, merely skeptical.
We are into the last act, where things begin to fall apart, rather. Here we have the screenwriter's trick of almost reproducing a scene we have seen earlier. The audience know the routine and what the lovely Lydia is all about, having seen her go through the same cunning motions with Sir George Fenwick, and we all know what happened to him.
Low lights, music, is that all there is to it?
It's amusing to see Holmes's reaction here to the mention of drugs. He is a man, according to Conan Doyle, who was a self-injector. Sometimes morphine, but more usually a 7% solution of cocaine. But of course here Rathbone's Holmes is apprehensive about being drugged for the wrong reason. And we, the audience, cannot believe that he is not prepared for such eventuality.
As a matter of fact, I'd rather not myself. But Schrenk-Notzing he practiced in Munich, you know. Believed it the best means for difficult subjects. Do you mind?
Well, as a matter of fact, I don't approve of sedatives.
Just as you wish. We don't have to go on with this at all, you know.
Wait a minute.
Thanks to the superb performance of Hilary Brooke here, a soft, compelling voice, certainly not betraying her New Jersey roots, and Neill's direction, along with John P. Fulton's convincing special effects, this is a very convincing
Cannabis
scene.
japonica, an oriental soporific. You'll need water.
Thank you.
Now sit down, Mr. Holmes. You'll feel yourself growing drowsy. Don't fight it. Give in to it. Because you do want to sleep, you know. Just fix your eyes on this one white flower floating on the water. Empty your mind of every other thought. Follow the motion of the water. So smooth, not a ripple. Waters of forgetfulness. Steady, deep, strong. Strange, isn't it? How the light is reflected. Little specks of light that move and move. It's restful here. It's peaceful. It's friendly. And you're very close to finding what you're looking for. You'll find them soon now. The guilty ones. when you're rested, gentle waters closing over you, steady, deep, strong, drawing you down, down, down. Sleep, sleep, sleep.
A convincing scene. And of course it has to be. We, the audience, must believe that Holmes is now out of his depth. In tracking down this femme fatale with hypnotic powers, he is tangled with something that his logical brain cannot fight. We must believe that he has succumbed to the power of hypnotism and that his life is in real danger. One of the problems with Sherlock Holmes is that he is so perfect and infallible, and so the audience never really believes that he's in any danger at all. Of course, this does not apply solely to these films. It is the nature of the character created by Arthur Conan Doyle, and that is why Professor Moriarty had to be created, to challenge him. Moriarty, a character who was as brilliant and as intellectually cunning as Holmes, but working on the other side of the law. Now, shrewd old Moriarty is not going to be convinced that a sleepwalking Holmes is not shamming. Indeed, at least half the audience believe it too. And so, our dolly-dressing doctor is brought in to test the detective. This proves to the professor that Holmes really is under the influence of hypnotism, and now we, the viewers, are puzzled as to how the great detective will get out of this particular tight corner. The camera, as with the severed fingers, shies away from showing as the blade in Holmes's neck. Here's another weakness in the script. If Moriarty was prepared to have Holmes shot in cold blood from across the street of his Baker Street rooms by a hypnotized sniper, why is he bothering to have the detective write out this suicide note? What exactly is the point? Why doesn't he just shove old Sherlock off the roof straight away? And even if he has Holmes propel himself off the roof himself, he will be found in the road outside the apartment block of Lydia Marlowe, who had been seen with Holmes at the Mesmer Club. Surely it would have been safer to grab Holmes and knife him up a dark alley. It's an illogical moment.
I have at last found a case which I cannot solve. I have outlived my usefulness. Therefore, I have decided to end my life. Sign your name. Now blot it. Fold it up. And put it in your pocket.
Cruel to the end, Moriarty denies his psychopathic friend the opportunity to use his knife on Holmes. In essence, we have a kind of reenactment of the encounter at the Reichenbach Falls here, as featured in the Doyle story, The Final Problem. The two arch-enemies together in a high place. Only this time we are led to believe that Moriarty really has the upper hand. But it is not brute force that will win the day on this occasion, but a battle of wits. Notice how Lydia Marlowe's role has been sidelined now. Once out onto the terrace, she has only 3 lines left in the movie.
Now turn to the left and walk slowly to the end of the terrace. Don't stop. You must walk to the end, you know. The end leads to an open doorway. You can pass through it in perfect safety. In the room beyond the doorway, you'll find what you've been looking for.
Must you drag this on?
This is the moment I've been anticipating for a long time, my dear. Go on, Mr. Holmes.
Holmes's rescue is in the nick of time category, a device which had already featured in Sherlock Holmes in Washington, Faces Death, and Spider-Woman. and Sorbet now was a little tired and, dare one say, predictable. This interchange between Holmes and Watson here is unnecessarily silly. Why doesn't Holmes leap off the high wall as soon as the police arrive? Of course, the result is that we do get one final comic moment with Watson, who nearly falls off the wall. And why do the villains remain static, as though they have been hypnotised when the police arrive? Surely one of them would have tried to make a dash for it. And what a weak explanation, using some unknown drug which allows you to remain conscious but insensitive to pain. A miracle drug, more like. Another clumsy weakness in plotting.
You fought until you arrived. What kept you?
Well, I ran into a spot of trouble on my way to Scotland Yard. I was arrested for exceeding the speed limit.
Your luck seems to hold, Mr. Holmes.
Well, I'd hardly call it luck, Professor. You see, I substituted a drug of my own for the one that this dear lady pressed on me.
You are clever, aren't you?
A drug that, although it leaves the subject conscious, renders him quite insensitive to pain.
Quite a nice last line, but really Lydia deserved a more colourful exit.
Well, Gregson, quite an impressive haul. Even Inspector Lestrade himself couldn't have done any better.
Thanks, Mr. Holmes.
Take him away.
All right, put her in the van.
At least Moriarty lives up to his claim that he'll not stand on the gallows. And, like at Reichenbach, he falls from a great height to his death, or to be more precise, until he returns in another movie, played by another actor.
Au revoir until I see you on the gallows.
The rope has not been made that'll go around my neck.
And then we have our little Sherlockian homily to round things off. Earlier in the series, these were morale-boosting, patriotic little messages meant to raise the spirits in wartime. The later entries were merely little pats on the back to Holmes and Watson, particularly Holmes.
I'll take care of things, Mr. Holmes.
Thank you, Inspector.
Come on.
An evil man, Holmes, but what a horrible death.
Better than he deserved.
The Woman in Green had the potential to be one of the best of the Universal series. The concept of the finger murders linked with Moriarty and a wonderful femme fatale in Lydia Marlowe, brilliantly played by Hilary Brooke, were excellent ideas, but the slackness in the plotting and the rather tame and indeed predictable finale lets the project down somewhat. As one reviewer noted, with a bit of development and a lot more panache, The Woman in Green might have been amongst the best Sherlock Holmes thrillers. I would add that despite its weakness, it still is great fun and highly enjoyable.